About what you have achieved through your hard work, and I think it's time that New Yorkers see their hard work rewarded. Look, it's not easy to do any of the things that we've asked of all of you in a place like this, the most densely populated place in the country, a place where we're so used to being close together, a place where we live in tight quarters, and a lot of families live particularly in their own apartments, in their own homes in very tight quarters. We've asked you to do a lot. We've asked you now over the last 2 months to shelter in place, to practice social distancing, to wear face coverings. It's a lot. And it hasn't been easy. It hasn't been easy for a single day. Everyone's been making huge adjustments. And I've talked to so many New Yorkers who have told me it's been a struggle. But despite that, you've done it. You've done it to a remarkable degree. And because you have done it so well, we're now actually in a position to start talking about opening things up, step by step, phase by phase. And I've been cautious. I think anyone who's been watching these broadcasts knows that I take a very cautious, conservative view based on a focus on health and safety of how and when we take each step to restart. But the fact is that you've proven it through your actions that we are getting to the point very, very soon where we can take the first step to restart in phase one. So you have earned it. Everybody's thinking about it. Everybody's talking about it. Now we can really get ready for the real work, the tangible work of taking that big first step. So I want to talk to you today about what that's going to look like and how the city of New York is going to help people into this first phase and through this first phase. And then if we keep doing things right, well beyond that to more and more reopening and more steps towards a better situation for all of us. So, first of all, it's important to remind everyone, when we say restart, we do not mean rushing back to something that we used to think of as normal. We do not mean flicking a switch and suddenly everything's where it was again. Of course not. We have to make sure this virus is in check. We've come a long way. We're not going to blow it now. We're going to constantly make sure we are holding back this disease. And we're going to make sure that we are putting the steps in place all the time to avoid it ever having a resurgence. That's not just now, that's at every point along the way. We don't get a memo from the disease telling us when it plans on resurging, when it plans on a boomerang. We have to be fighting every day to make sure it doesn't happen. Now, we've talked in recent days about our test, trace, and take care effort. That is central to this because that is the offensive. That's how you make sure you're pushing back the disease on top of everything all New Yorkers have done. Now a systematic effort based on examples from around the world, but bigger than anything we've ever seen in the history of this city or this country, a systematic effort to trace every single case, follow through, make sure people have the help they need to separate safely. This is a game changer because it's going to be done on a vast scale and it's going to keep constraining the disease. Doing that is part of how we restart smartly, and that test, trace, and take care initiative grows with every week ahead. So it gets bigger and bigger, more and more impact, reducing the spread of the disease. But now we should talk about what restart looks like on the ground and phase one. And I want to say, I really give a lot of credit to the state of New York for a clear articulation of what are the industries that are part of phase one, and then how each industry should think about the practicalities of reopening. The fact is the state gives out this guidance, and anyone who hasn't seen it, I really want to encourage you to look at it. It's written in a very helpful, straightforward manner. And this is for all of the industries that will restart in phase one. As I said, based on what we know today, that will be in either the first or second week of June. Anyone looking for this information can go to the state website, ny.gov/industries-reopening-phase. And it lays out very practically what you need to do. If you're a business owner, what you need to do to actually make it come together. Now, I've spoken to a lot of business owners, small businesses, bars, restaurants, retail, and some of the owners of some of the biggest businesses in New York City. Everyone wants clarity. Everyone wants to be safe. I have not heard a single reckless person. I have not heard a single person say, oh no, I'm just going to open, I don't care what happens, or oh, I don't want to follow all these rules. No, people understand the rules are for everyone's safety. The rules are to allow us to keep reopening. So there's a lot of willingness to work with the rules, a lot of understanding. Rome wasn't built in a day. It's going to take time to figure this out. But businesses want to reopen. The people who work at their businesses want to come back. People are ready for this, but they need to know it will be safe. So actually what I see is a lot of people moving in the same direction, wanting to restart, wanting to do it the right way. But of course, the question is, what does it really look like on the ground? So these guidelines are a great starting point. First of all, they tell us what we need to know about which industries. Construction, all the construction that's not going on now, that restarts. Manufacturing restarts. Wholesale work restarts. And retail that hasn't been in that essential category. So we know what essential has been. It's been pharmacies, grocery stores, supermarkets. But now we're talking about a whole range of other retail, clothing stores, office supply stores, furniture stores, you name it, but restricted to curbside pickup or in-store pickup. That means not wandering the aisles, shopping or lingering or comparing things, but placing an order and coming and getting it. So it's a quick transaction with limited contact between people. Okay. Now, that's 4 whole parts of our economy. Manufacturing, construction, wholesale, and the parts of retail that haven't been open yet, again, with restrictions. Well, what does it mean in terms of the number of people who will be coming back to work in the 5 boroughs? We've been working on estimates of that. It's imperfect because no one knows for sure what each company will do. We're surveying companies constantly, but we don't know the final choices each will make until the time comes. Some are dealing with huge economic challenges, obviously, but the vast majority say they're ready. They've been out of action now for a few months, but not forever. So a lot of them are really ready to come back. Obviously, some workers are ready to come back, some are not for a variety of reasons. And of course, where companies can continue to do their work remotely, there's a lot of advantages to that right now. But these sectors, as you can imagine, tend to be the sectors where you need people in person. But on top of that, they were chosen because of the sectors where you can create a lot of physical separation. You can make sure that people are safe. So what does it mean? We think a minimum of 200,000 New Yorkers will be coming back to work, a maximum of 400,000. That's quite a range. A lot of other parts of the country, that would be their entire city. But here, because we're in the great unknown, we've never been through a pandemic like this, certainly not in the last 100 years, we can only give you a range to begin, but we're going to know really soon what the truth is. But even if you say 200,000 people, that's a lot of employees coming back to work. So we want to make sure it's done the right way, and we want to emphasize safety throughout. So now let's talk about how we make it work business by business. Every business has a set of rules that fit its reality, the nature of its business. And so there are very specific, nuts and bolts rules that people can follow and make sense of. Now, let's talk about some of them so you get a grounding on what it means. Physical distance to begin with. The whole concept here is you have to keep that 6-foot distance, I should say. Look, there may be moments where people have to come closer together. Sometimes it's just the nature of the job. Sometimes there's an immediate situation that people have to deal with. But the goal is, as much as possible, keep people 6 feet apart. On top of that, keep the occupancy in each location. Think about a manufacturing plant. Keep it to under 50% of its normal capacity so you have room for people to spread out. If there's tight spaces, elevators, an area around a cash register, keep it to 1 person at a time to the maximum extent possible. These are sort of common sense rules. And that, look, it's all about limiting contact, limiting the potential spread of the disease. Obviously, PPEs. Some companies need more advanced PPEs, but the vast majority just need a simple face covering for their employees, I should say. But it's crucial that every company make sure every employee has one. They need to provide them for free to their employees. They need to make sure they're wearing them. Hygiene. Cleaning, regular cleaning of any shared surfaces. That's a crucial part of this, just constantly over and over again, going back on a schedule, cleaning those surfaces. Every day there has to be healthcare screening. Now that can take different forms. The state guidance is clear. It might be a temperature check in the morning as people come to their place of work. It might be a questionnaire that people fill out each morning just talking about their situation, if there's anything that seems symptomatic in what they're feeling. But it's a constant everyday check on how employees are doing. Stating the obvious, any employee that isn't feeling well should stay home. But the important thing is to set up some rigorous screening at each and every employer to test each employee coming in one form or another, check to see how they're doing, check to see if anyone shouldn't come in to the workplace that day. Now, absolutely crucial, as with everything in life, communication, lots of information, putting up signage, constant updates, making sure that employees are reminded of the rules, making sure there's social distance markers around that they can see that remind them, this is your workstation, stay 6 feet away from the next person. All of that constant showing people exactly how it works is part of what makes this work for everyday working people. We're all going to learn together. Look, our business community is extraordinary in the city. Whether you're talking a mom and pop store, a bodega, right on up to the biggest businesses. One thing businesses do is they adapt, they create, they move with the times, they move with new conditions. That's the nature of business. Our small businesses know that better than anyone.